Well, it was Edward Rabbits who took him to a meeting one Good Friday. And among those present was a petite, dark-eyed, delicate young lass called Catherine Mumford. William had met Catherine a couple of times before, but on this occasion he asked if he could escort her home to Brixton. William was a very happy man. It was his 23rd birthday and he had fallen head over heels in love with Catherine. And they both knew it.
I'm sorry to cause you to leave the service early, but thank you for escorting me home.
It's a pleasure.
I thought you gave a very fine sermon.
Thank you.
But the young lovers were soon parted. William was offered a Methodist circuit in the Lincolnshire Fens around Spalding. And although it was just 100 miles from London, there was no nipping down the motorway in those days. No reassuring voice on the other end of a telephone. As far as William was concerned, he'd left his beloved Catherine on the other side of the world. The postman was their only link.
My dearest William, ever since you went, I have gone to bed much earlier and have not dreamed about you once, to my great disappointment. Was pleased to hear you had about me. It will be a comfort to see you, even in fancy.
I was really ill and thought much of you. Oh, how much I wanted your hand on my aching head. Got better, went and preached, and then came home and made a hearty dinner of goose.
I fear, my love, you are not sufficiently careful as to diet. Do exercise self-denial in these things. As to preaching, I am all anxiety about you. It is monstrous to think of you preaching 10 sermons in 1 week. If you do so again, I shall be quite angry.
But that didn't stop him asking her for a helping hand.
I want a sermon on the flood, one on Jonah, and one on the judgment. Send me some bare thoughts. Nothing moves the people like the terrific. They must have hellfire flashed before their eyes, or they will not move.
Beware against mere animal excitement in your services. I do think noise made by the preacher and the Christians in church is productive of evil only. I don't think the gospel needs roaring and foaming to make it effective, and to some it would make it ridiculous.
Well, when an excited animal tipped William out of his trap, and William continued using it, Catherine was furious.
You doubtless hurt your back with falling, and then you go and risk your life a second time without necessity. This displays a sad want of prudence and a sad forgetfulness of me. Pray, never ride behind that horse again if you love me.
But there were dangers other than physical ones.
My dearest love, beware of ambition. Ambition, even to save souls, may not be good. But ambition simply to glorify God must be. Tell God your will and desire is to be holy, leaving him to choose your employment and position.
Thank you for your good advice. You have more to do with my resolves and struggles than anyone.
She was clearly upset at William's suggestion that she had more influence on what he did than Jesus.
Dearest, think not more of me than you ought to think. I do want to be next to Christ in your affections. I am glad to hear you say you love me best when you love Jesus most. It is a good sign. The nearer we are to him, the nearer we will be to each other.
I do think that...
On June 16th, over 3 years after that momentous carriage ride to Brixton, William and Catherine were married by the Reverend Dr. David Thomas at Stockwell New Chapel. They spent a week's honeymoon at Ryde in the Isle of Wight, and the second week conducting a preaching mission in Guernsey. That's the sort of people they were. That was their story. William backpedaled. He wouldn't go so far as to encourage a woman to preach, but he wouldn't try and stop her, which was just as well. In due course, after their marriage, William went to Gateshead as minister of the Bethesda Chapel.
The day of Pentecost was fully come. They were all, with one accord, in one place.
One Whit Sunday morning, he looked down from his pulpit on a congregation of well over 1,000.
William, I have something to say.
My dear wife wishes to speak.
My dear friends, many times God has moved me to speak, but I have lacked the courage to do so. Today, I must be obedient to the Spirit.
The Gateshead folk were stunned. Their minister's wife was such a shy person. I didn't know she could talk like that, man. She's got power.
And there appeared unto them cloven tongues like as of fire, and it sat upon each of them. And they were all filled with the Holy Ghost, and began to speak with other tongues, as the Spirit gave them utterance. Now when this was noised abroad, the multitude came together.
Catherine was to go on to greater triumphs. For nearly 30 years after that, people packed churches and chapels, Salvation Army citadels, and even the Albert Hall to hear.
Behold, are not all these which speak Galileans? And how hear we every man in our...
When Booth founded the Salvation Army, it was logical right from the beginning that women officers should preach and act with the same authority as men. And they certainly justified themselves. There wasn't anything that was too tough to handle. In fact, Booth often said that some of his best men were women. That was certainly true of his wife. Catherine was to be revered the world over as the Army Mother. Certainly the Salvation Army wouldn't have been what it is without her. There's no love story more romantic or passionate than the one which started with that carriage ride to Brixton one April day when Victoria was Queen. Yet, much as they loved each other, William and Catherine tried to love God more. God first was their watchword for an army of men and women marching onward.